You hear it before you see it. A sound like the sky tearing, rolling in low from the west. But there's no storm, no clouds. Just a flat grey sea that's gone strangely, wrongly quiet. Then the water starts pulling back, dragging fish, seaweed, and stranded boats across newly exposed mudflats. Your children are laughing, chasing crabs across ground that was ocean floor an hour ago. You are not laughing. Something in your body, older than language, is screaming at you to run uphill, and you don't fully know why.
Welcome to a coastline in northern Europe, roughly 8,150 years ago, minutes before one of the largest tsunamis to ever strike this stretch of the planet.
This is the story of the Storegga Slide, an underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, so massive it's still studied by geologists today. For a long time that was written off as myth, except the more geologists dig into the evidence, the more some of those myths look less like metaphor and more like memory. How do you survive an event large enough to reshape a coastline? And why does nearly every ancient culture seem to remember something like it? Roughly 8,150 years ago, a chunk of the seafloor of Norway collapsed, one of the largest submarine landslides ever documented. An estimated 3,000 cubic kilometers of sediment, an area roughly the size of Iceland, gave way, sliding down the continental shelf into the deep Norwegian Sea. A slide that size displaces an almost incomprehensible volume of water, and that water has to go somewhere. It went outward in every direction as a series of tsunami waves. Geologists have traced sediment deposits across Norway, the Faroe Islands, Scotland, and eastern England, in places running up coastlines tens of kilometers from the original waterline. At the time, the North Sea wasn't entirely sea. A low-lying landmass connected Britain to continental Europe, Doggerland. A patchwork of marshes, river valleys, and coastal plains, prime real estate for Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, rich in fish, waterfowl, and game. Doggerland may have played a role in submerging its lowest-lying areas entirely. An entire landscape people called home, gone, in the geological equivalent of an afternoon. Its existence known to us now, mainly through fishing trawlers, dragging up ancient tools and mammoth bones from the seafloor. So, what actually happened to the people living there? This is where the story shifts from catastrophe to human survival strategy. The first factor, environmental literacy, an intimate, generational knowledge of how the coastline normally behaved. The single strangest, most consistent detail in tsunami survivor accounts is the water pulling back unnaturally far before the wave arrives. The second factor, elevation. Settlements weren't uniformly built at the water's edge. Communities often camped on slightly elevated ground. The third factor, transmitted knowledge. One generation witnessing a catastrophe this large and passing down even a fragment of a warning. Cultures from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical flood, narrative to indigenous flood stories across the Pacific Northwest. correlated by geologists with real, datable earthquakes and tsunamis along the Cascadia Fault, turning catastrophic, community-altering disasters into repeated, memorized, generation-spanning stories isn't a coincidence of imagination. It's a survival technology in its own right. There was no volcano on the horizon, no mountain to watch, no smoke, no tremor anyone would necessarily feel. The slide happened underwater, far offshore, silently. A volcanic eruption gives you smoke, tremors, weeks of warning. A tsunami born from a silent underwater landslide gives you minutes. Sediment layers show wave run-up of over 20 meters in some inlets, while other sheltered stretches barely registered the event at all. Two communities a short walk apart could have experienced completely different days. One undisturbed, the other erased. We only know Storegga happened because of an underwater landslide that left a permanent scar in the sediment record. The human toll is almost entirely invisible to us. For every flood story that survived, oral tradition, others almost certainly vanished. The coastline you'd stand on today, in Norway, in Scotland, in eastern England, carries no visible memory of what happened. The land moved on. The sea looks calm again. Somewhere in the quiet layers of sediment beneath it, there's a permanent geological signature of the day the ocean disappeared, then came back all at once and took an entire vanished country with it.